Let's bring in Adam Goodman, a Republican strategist and principal at the Victory Financial Group, along with Chris Hahn, former aide to Democratic Senator Chuck Schumer and a syndicated radio host. Adam, everybody weighed in yesterday in different kinds of ways, but look, I was watching Megyn Kelly on Fox News last night, and she said voters are getting really, really tired in a horrified way of these shootings, and they do want some answers and some kind of change. What will be the most successful change here?
What we need are straight answers, sincere leadership, strong leadership, and action. You know, right now we hear, Liz, a lot of political gamesmanship and policy lecturing. On the same day or the day after the tragedy, we hear Harry Reid blaming Republicans for what happened. As you just showed, the Daily News and others are mocking Republicans for offering prayer and hope to the victims and their families. And we have everybody pointing fingers of blame in every direction before we had all the facts in. But the facts that we do know are chilling. As you said in the intro, thousands of rounds of ammunition, 12 pipe bombs, a methodical attack that was designed to kill a lot of people. And what we need in this country is not a bunch of political showmanship. We need to have leadership that says we've had enough, and we're going to make changes and make things happen.
Well, Chris, they're the disenfranchised young men that we've seen in the past pulling this off. We've seen the homegrown terrorists. We've seen the radicalized Muslims who are in this country. Don't you think it's important for, no matter who's running for president, to call it as they see it? These are Muslim people who had just traveled to Saudi Arabia. And had started showing signs, certainly, that recently the male suspect had started growing a beard. And I think Americans aren't dumb anymore, you know, and they don't want to be treated stupid.
Yeah, look, I mean, obviously the president has to take his cue from the FBI. I think Carly Fiorina could say whatever she wants to say. She's only running for president. But yeah, I mean, it looks like terrorism to me. And like she said, if it looks like a duck, it walks like a duck. Unfortunately, that duck walked into a U.S. gun store with our lax gun laws and legally bought guns in America. And I think Chris Murphy, the senator from Connecticut, said it best when he said, you know, your thoughts should be about how we are going to solve the gun crisis in America, and your prayers should be for forgiveness for not doing anything if you haven't, because I think we do need action. And he, of course,
was from Connecticut and had to deal with the most disgusting and horrific aftermath of the Sandy Hook shootings, where 20 children were murdered. One little 7-year-old girl shot 5 times. And so, you know, for those who started to rip him because they disagree with how he feels, shame on them, I might say.
Shame on them.
We're all allowed in America to have our opinions. But Adam, maybe we now, and it's horrible, but our law enforcement, we must back them up. But the gun store owners, rather, does something need to change with the way they do things?
Well, I can tell you this is really not about gun policy, but I think at the very top, Liz, it's about a failure of leadership. It's about a failure of leadership to really step up and do what's necessary on a number of fronts. We live right now, Liz, in what you might call in political geology, the age of ISIS. Where we're just getting tired of kind of taking it on the chin, of not measuring up when we have to, of not being there with our friends and allies when they get hurt half a world away.
Chris, do we need to be more like the Israelis, where we worry a little bit less about being politically correct and asking everybody who walks into a mall, open your purse, and well, the Israelis are criticized as pulling off racial profiling, but last we checked, they have a much better success rate.
You know, I'm not ready to give up my liberty for security. And as for this being an ISIS or an al-Qaeda attack, maybe it is. But the one that happened last week wasn't. The one that happened the week before that wasn't. You know, Republicans are going to say, well, this was terrorism, we got to put it aside. But the NRA wants people on the terrorist watch list to have access to guns. When is that going to be the discussion in America? When are we going to actually live up to the promise that this country is and protect our people? We're all for giving up our rights and profiling people, but when we have to ask a couple of extra questions to people buying guns, that's where Republicans draw the line, and they should be ashamed of themselves today for even suggesting that that's okay.
I think the biggest problem, Liz, we have today is just what Chris was saying. He's making this a Republican-Democrat kind of confrontation.
It is.
Wait a minute, Christopher. Christopher, wait a minute. As Americans, when we face crisis traditionally, we have pulled together and united. It's time to stop talking as a liberal Democrat, as something that one party against another. Let's get something.
Let's unite, and let's get all of the Republicans running for president to agree that at least people on the FBI terrorism watch list shouldn't get guns.
Donald Trump has said we can't have crazy people buying guns, and certainly it would make sense. And we have to leave it here, but it would make sense that people on a terrorism watch list shouldn't be able to buy guns. That is just what people might think makes sense. But right now, there isn't a lot of sense to be made with so many people who have been killed and families grieving. We want to thank you both, Adam Goodman and Chris Hahn.
Thank you.
Thanks both. No, really.